Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Karak with Mehreen show. I'm so excited about today's guest. She is a global icon in the modest fashion industry. She is a public speaker who proudly represents the Muslim community on international platforms. She is the world's very first hijabi model. Let me please welcome Mariah Al-Idrisi. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you. Me too. And I'm leaving today as well, which is so sad.
I know, it's so sad that we got to meet literally the end of your trip. When I saw your message, I was like, oh my God, you're here finally. Because I remember I reached out to you, this was basically 11 months ago when I reached out to you, and we're finally getting the chance to do this.
Glad.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And you've done amazing since then as well. I've been watching all the episodes. It's done so well in such a short amount of time.
Thank you. That means
shabash.
Shabash. Thank you. When someone says shabash, in Urdu, it feels nicer. You know, I get, it's more heartfelt. I don't know if that makes sense.
I just want to pat their head. Shabash.
Yeah, shabash. Thank you. Shukriya.
I don't have to say you're welcome, but yes, welcome.
Yeah, my friends always ask me what is the Urdu translation of welcome, but there's nothing. I don't know. I was like, okay.
That's it.
But yeah, so there's so much that I want to talk to you about. We only have an hour, but I'm really excited to dig in. The first thing that I would love to talk to you about is the fact that you are Moroccan-Pakistani and you grew up in the UK. So that's quite an interesting mix. You come from so many different cultures. How is it like growing up in the UK with coming from these different cultures?
Well, the UK is very diverse. I mean, I'd say London specifically and the other big cities. So I didn't necessarily feel any overt racism or Islamophobia, fortunately. Okay. Yeah, alhamdulillah, because it was super diverse. So growing up with my mix, even though it was more unique, I didn't know anyone with that specific mix other than my cousins who are also Pakistani and Moroccan. But it didn't have a negative effect. It was the opposite, actually. It was oh wow, that's a cool mix.
Okay. So sorry, continue.
No,
I was just gonna say, so you didn't face any kind of stereotypical views, racist kind of comments, things like that?
No, fortunately I didn't. But I think when I started to recognize that, oh, okay, this does exist, was in my work more than in my personal life. So my community, I grew up in Wembley. For those who know Wembley, Brent, the council is one of the most diverse councils in the country.
Okay.
So I grew up with Somalis, Indians, Jamaicans, Nigerians, really, really big mix of people. So I wasn't going to feel a type of way. I think in my school, there was I can count on one hand how many white kids there were.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So very diverse.
Yeah,
school.
we were the dominant, basically.
Wow.
Dominant races. So yeah, it was until I'd say later on in life with work that I started to feel okay, you only want to work with me in Ramadan, or you've said it's not relevant right now because, I'm only relevant for a season. Yeah, and I guess that could be leaning more towards xenophobia than racism as well. It's, I think definitely work-wise.
Yeah, that's interesting because everyone has so many different experiences growing up in the West, and it makes sense because you were in London, right? So it's very diverse, so many different cultures. So you didn't feel like you were different in a way. You were, everyone's together. It was not like that. I remember when I was watching one of your interviews, and you mentioned that when your mom was growing up, she did get a lot of Paki bashing, things like that.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how that went, if you're comfortable?
Yeah, so my mom's generation, she grew up in Birmingham as well, which was not London, but even then the country was definitely very different. In the 70s and maybe early 80s as well. So she faced a lot of racism, her and her friends, and she lived in a predominantly white area as well. So running home from school because gangs of kids would try to beat them up, and they had this thing called Paki bashing, where it's literally I don't know, a game to just beat up Asians and black people as well. So yeah, it was pretty intense. It was bad for her, and her brothers as well, constantly getting into fights, beaten up. So it was tough.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, so that was quite different. So your mom saw the shift in mindset and opinions. So now it's probably less in the UK, would you say?
Yeah, actually, it's on a rise. Islamophobia specifically is on a rise. I think 600% since October, which is pretty insane. So I wouldn't actually say no, it's not on a rise. And I guess if we look at how it's evolved because of social media, so even if maybe some might say there's less physical abuse or whatever, but now it's transferred on to online.
Yeah, that's true.
But at the same time, it still exists in real life. There was like a video recently that went round in a UK underground where this guy was trying to attack, or he pulled a hijab off a girl, and this black lady stepped in, and it was just like, you can just see like the divide between people, which is sad because it's not the whole UK. There are so many communities where we're all integrated and people are cool, and then at the same time this happens. So
it's just so sad to see how, like, even until today, we see Islamophobia, and we see especially in certain communities. So it's so rich in those communities, like it's so intense in those communities, and. I mean, I grew up here in the UAE. I've been here all my life, born and raised. So for me, just like when I would open social media and I would see the type of comments from the US, from the West, I would be shocked. And I'm like, don't you guys have Muslims there? Like, we're not like that. What do you mean? You know what I mean? So for me, it was just very surprising to see that. That's why the reason I asked was how it was like growing up in the UK, was because, like, is that something that you saw often? But I guess it depends on the city, depends on the area, it depends on that as well. It's just, I don't know, it's just sad, hard for me to fathom that it happens until today.
Yeah, and I was even thinking about it recently. Like, I thought my generation was going to be different. I was like, oh yeah, that's a thing of the past. Like, we're going to change it, and then our kids are going to change it, and then it's No. It's like every time something happens significant in the world, it just riles up people all over again. And society and technology, everything can evolve and change, but human nature is the same.
But so why do you think it exists so intensely?
I guess the one thing all of us want to protect is like our identity, our right to be human and be ourselves. And I think every time someone feels a slight attack on that, it becomes aggression. Rather than trying to understand each other, it becomes like defense mode. And even when you look at like the KKK and stuff, their idea is we're just trying to preserve whiteness, essentially. So people lead with fear rather than trying to collaborate and work together. It's like, no, we got to protect our own, and we got to do this in an aggressive, defensive way. And so that's why I think every time something flags up in the world, it just reinstalls that energy all over again. Because you'll find, in places that are generally should be peaceful, maybe you're not going to find as much of that happening because there's no threat. So the minute there is a threat, it's like suddenly, that's it. I got to protect my identity, my race, my home, my whatever it is.
But do you think it happens more against Islam than like any other religions that we've seen, or any other type of communities?
And we are scattered all over the world. Every corner you're going to find some Muslim community. So in a way, it makes us, more in some ways more victim to it. But it's hard to kind of measure. It is hard. It's hard to measure. But it's interesting because obviously growing up here, these are things that are like,
it's literally foreign to me.
It's like, what? People don't like Muslims?
It's like, we're so nice.
Exactly. And the thing is, when non-Muslims come here as well, that hopefully it opens their eyes and makes them also realize, like, oh my God, actually, what were we so threatened by in the West? Because it's like just regular people.
We're literally just people. Because I remember when some of my friends for college, they moved to UAE for university. So it was their very first experience coming to the UAE. And I used to ask them, like, what was your expectation before coming? And they told me, like, they were kind of scared. Like, their parents were very fearful. They were like, I don't know, they would do something and they'd be in jail or things like that.
Hand chopped off. Like literally watching Aladdin thinking like one of those security guards are going to come in.
No, that's literally what they think. And for me, it's just so shocking. But media, I guess, has a lot to do with this, where they've portrayed us in such a way. And I remember when one of my friends, he's from Brazil, and after what happened in October, what happened to Palestine, he was obviously supporting Palestine and the genocide that's happening. He was supporting that very strongly and firmly, but his family had a different opinion because of the type of news that were being told there. So whatever was, on their social media, what they were watching was so different. So whenever they would have conversations, he would be shocked to see how different the mindset is there, and the narrative being told is very different. So media just plays such a significant role in that regard. And when people come here, they just, all their fears, their expectation, everything is just, it's all gone, because literally we're just humans. Like we're normal people.
And you have the same comforts, more convenience, actually more living here. So it's like, oh my God, this is better. There's sun, like everyone's cool. That's why there's so many British people here. It's like,
they like the weather here.
Exactly, like the weather, and it's clean. So
that's a big thing.
I'm planning to be moving here actually. So
really? Okay, so we'll be seeing each other more often, inshallah.
Exactly.
But I mean, I think there's beauties and difficulties in all countries, in different cultures have their pains and have their beauties. But to generalize, I guess, one thing that happened to all Muslim communities or the entire population, that's ridiculous. And that's just not how humans work. And that's, you know what I mean? So it's just hard to fathom that happens.
It can happen. Well, media is definitely a huge influence on that. And even outside of news, film, music, just entertainment in general. If we look at now, yes, films are starting to change and we're putting out our narratives. But when you've had like 100 years of a really negative image of Muslims across films, then it's kind of like you're trying to undo it all in a very short space of time, whilst there's still things happening in the world to push that same idea that we're a certain way. And that's another reason why this region is so important, because if we look at Saudi and their film industry, inshallah, hopefully, I pray that these things are going to change, even if it's just starting here. It doesn't have to be from the West. This is stuff that we can do ourselves, exactly, and changing these narratives rather than waiting for them to do it, and then when they do it, they mess it up,
and they mess it up.
Dune didn't represent this properly or whatever. It's like, why are we waiting? Why are we still waiting for someone else to do it?
Such a good point.
We have the money. I say we as if like But we have the ideas, at least the minds to do it, and someone's got the money. So like together we should be able to change these perceptions, and at least we know we're doing our part. Rather than just complaining about how it's done wrong.
That's very true. I think like one of the reasons why I enjoyed doing the podcast as well was because I realized that this was an opportunity for me to for us to showcase South Asian, Middle Eastern stories from the people themselves, like the authentic stories. And even if it's not someone from, Pakistan or UAE, but it's someone who's visited these countries and seen it. So they have like an authentic experience to share. That's so important. And I think that's why like social media has so much power, but there's a lot of, it's also given power to the opposite side as well.
Exactly. So what made you actually, sorry, this is your podcast, what made you want to, tell these stories? Was there something, a significant moment, or just interest?
I feel like I'm the guest now. But I think the main reason, first of all, I just loved having conversations with people. And one of the main reasons I wanted to start was just because I love talking about our cultures, like about Pakistan culture, UAE cultures. And when I started traveling and meeting people, there was so much that they wouldn't know about us. And like, for example, I talk a lot about South Asians, so that's the basis of the podcast as well. South Asians, they account for like 25% of the entire world. So we're like we're everywhere, and yet we still, a lot of people don't know that much about us. There's just this stereotypical narrative about us. So I think that was just my inspiration to have these genuine conversations about how our cultures are, uplift our communities, and also talk about the negatives, because there's both positives and negatives. Just openly talk about that. I think that was the
really
reason.
That's so important. You know, I'm gonna have to have another conversation with you after to
dive into that. We'll go more into that. But I mean, you basically did the same in a different way, where in a more powerful and impactful way, where you were the first hijabi model, and there were so many, it just blew up, right? And then there were so many trends that came in after that. It went viral, and a lot more people started talking about it, and it just became more, I guess, accepting. Would you agree with that after the campaign, because people started talking about it more, it became more normalized?
Yeah. I mean, I always say, regardless whether it was me or someone else, because it wasn't necessarily that they were like, we want Mariah Al-Idrisi. I was not on Instagram. I was not in that space. I was nobody. So it was just the fact that me, a woman wearing a hijab in a campaign, it was more so what I represented. And then alhamdulillah, it grew into more of, you know, me and building up my own self. But initially, whoever it would have been, that impact definitely, I think, shaped where we are now in terms of like beyond fashion even, because just general advertising, I would hardly, if ever, see a Muslim woman on a billboard in a hijab, I don't know, doing something for EE or like some sort of, you know, something random. They just wouldn't really be included in any type of advertising. And then suddenly from that, I started to see it way more. I started to see more visible Muslims on TV, even like being invited to have conversations on like panels, and you know, so it did change, I think, a lot, in my opinion. And I mean, you say it's not just because of you, but like the impact that you've created and that you've continued is because of you. I know you're very humble, but it is there's a huge role that you've played in paving that way for other women. So honestly, it's incredible. Like, it's so incredible. Like, when I knew about you before, but when I was researching about you more, I was just like so in awe of like the things that you've done and how you've represented the community. It's so beautiful. Thank you. Also, it's amazing. But one thing that I wanted to ask was, when you went into the industry, right? Were there some misconceptions about women who wear the hijab? And you were saying that you faced that a lot in your work. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Yeah, I think there was just a lack of understanding in, you know, what the hijab looks like for someone. So, and that makes sense. If you're not Muslim and then you're seeing so many different Muslim women wearing hijab in different ways and with their own style, you're not going to know necessarily the correct way, you know, unless you've studied into the fiqh of the hijab. And on a shoot, you know, you've got a stylist who's just like, I'm just here to dress you. And I know I've got a concept of like what I have to cover, but not really much of an idea. So a lot of my work was going hand in hand with consulting. So I was modeling, but also consulting on the shoe, and even sometimes co-producing like ads or stuff, branded stuff, because it's like, oh, we want to make you look like it's bedtime, but you wear a hijab. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to pretend like I would wear hijab like this and go to sleep. So it's just like clever ways where it's like, okay, let's just pretend I switch off the light so we have an idea like I'm about to, you know.
I saw that video.
Just like little, do some research. So just like little things like that to help outside of just being the model, being the face of it. And I think that was even more important because it was like the educational side of the work, which then meant the person who's working with me on that shoot, maybe next week with someone else, she already has an idea and can go off and do that.
So because those people were working with someone with that job for the first time, so they basically did not have an understanding, as you said, of how it goes, like what would make more sense. Like, there was that lack of awareness which you brought into the table. There was a lack of awareness, and you know, even if it is ignorance, it wasn't like something to be offended by. It's just, this is all brand new for me as well, you know. Thank God I watched America's Next Top Model, because I was like, I don't know how to
I wouldn't know, like, understand this industry because I was obsessed with that show just generally.
Yeah.
So I was like, yes,
so it
I'm
worked
ready.
out.
Smiles, all of that, you know. So everyone was kind of learning on the job. They're figuring out how to work with me, and I'm also figuring out how to navigate this space. So it was just like having grace on you. Everyone just had to have grace.
Were there negative moments though where you felt offended, or there were things that were kind of condescending or derogatory in a way?
Fortunately, again, I know it seems like everything's been so fair reason, but there's obviously like bad moments. But I think because of the way my entry point was, it was like I didn't come in trying to be a model, or like it just happened. So then they know that, okay, she wears a hijab. We can't now tell her to not wear it because that's what she's known for. That is what made her a model, essentially. Otherwise, I would have just been another girl in the advert, you know?
Yeah.
So the significant thing was the hijab. So that's specifically what people wanted to work with me for because of that. And so I didn't really have any moments where it's like, can you just take it off? Or
okay, you didn't have those moments.
No, I did have like, and I put this down to ignorance again. It wasn't something done, you know, maliciously, but hey, can you wear this skirt that's super tight? Or can you wear like shorts and then we'll put long socks or something? Like, no. Like, it doesn't work. So I was trying to, of course, you know, along the way, just like maintain. There were moments where I felt like, okay, this is a bit wacky what I'm wearing, or it's not really my cup of tea. And then you're kind of battling with yourself because you're like, on one hand, this is fashion. And then the other hand, it's like, but I want to preserve the hijab and my, So there was, of course, these moments of friction. But overall, I don't feel like anyone did anything intentionally bad.
People were respectful of,
like if I ever said I don't want to wear this or I can't wear this, it would have been like, okay, no problem, let's find something else.
Okay. So they were quite respectful.
Maybe that's in the UK we are quite polite, and you know, everyone's like friendly.
Do you want to have a cup of tea?
Exactly, the typical thing. So it wasn't maybe if I would have had a different experience somewhere else if I was working. Because most of my work has been between here, here is in the UAE. And the UK, and I've done a few things in America, but mostly UK and UAE.
One thing that I remember you mentioning was how it's seasonal. So, you know, the demand comes when it's the right season. So do you think that even now the fashion industry only, I guess, promotes hijabi models when it's like a trend, or it's something more commercial than something that's just more accepting and understanding?
Yeah. I don't know if it happens even here as well, because I did speak to a few agents, and sometimes it's like there could be moments where they decide it's Ramadan, so we have to have hijabs, you know, because they don't have to throughout the year, but
in that moment they need
so it's like a global thing where it does happen. And you kind of feel like this doesn't make sense because we wear it throughout the year. So why are we only working seasonally, or when it suits them, when it's like something about diversity or, you know, whatever. And that is still, I guess, the challenge of trying to normalize that we're not a seasonal, you know, thing to include us in, or you don't need just one of us in an agency and that's it. You know, whatever comes for a Muslim or a hijabi, we'll just give it to that one person. But it's a process, It's a process.
It's a journey. I guess, like, again, as I said, that you were, you know, the first to enter the industry. So it is, and as you mentioned, there's some lack of awareness, there's some ignorance. So I guess it's a journey of eliminating all those factors that could affect the experience of a hijabi model in the industry. But like, I think it's definitely a journey, and it's a beautiful journey that you've embarked for the rest of the hijabi models that came in. So it's really beautiful, and it's so powerful. And one thing that you kind of mentioned it was about the way you wear the hijab, and I think that that's something there's a lot of judgment around that, and people have a lot of comments when they see someone wearing a hijab in a different way. Do you think that you received a lot of judgment in that regard?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. Because, do you know what's funny? Because sometimes I'll wear jilbab. Like, why not? Sometimes I'll wear it just backwards, quick with jeans and whatever, baggy t-shirts. So, I do have quite a spectrum in how I wear the hijab. And I think that's just down to, and I would never say this is the correct way. I'm allowed, it's just personal. I've always been on a journey with hijab. And you know what? I think, subhanAllah, everything happens for a reason. Even that campaign, it really helped preserve almost my relationship with the hijab, rather than ever feeling like, I can take it off one day. Like, and it's not that you're wearing it fi sabilillah, but it's that extra support to help you. It's like, we're Muslim, we're born Muslim, alhamdulillah, for many of us who are, and for those who converted to Islam, you made that choice to come to Islam, but then we still have these tools to support us to maintain it. Allah didn't say you just take a shahada and that's it, you're good to go for the rest. So this is again where we have grace on each other. Like, these areas in life or experiences are just things to help support us. So I do feel like the work I do supports me in
That's
maintaining
beautiful.
The hijab.
That's a very nice outlook on what happened, So that's actually very beautiful. And I think there's so many different things that happen in your life that reinforce things that maybe you have some doubts on, you have some struggles on. Like, everything is fate. Like, everything happens for a reason. So that's just the beauty of life. Like, there are so many things that you get. For me personally, that I get confused about whether I made the right decision. I just feel like there's always like a sign that comes in, and I'm like, okay, this is the right path, Exactly, so I think that's beautiful, the beauty of life.
Yeah, exactly. These things that happen, and it's like, because I guess for some people it could be the opposite. For some, you could have entered my space and realized, oh my God, I'm not getting a lot of opportunities because of the hijab, and it could lead someone to wanting to take it off. Whereas for me, it's like, oh no, this has happened. This is what I'm recognized for. I have a responsibility now.
Wow.
Beyond just, the ultimate responsibility to Allah, but to people as well, to whoever's, young and inspired. And
That's very beautiful. Do you think that, so you were saying that there was a lot of judgment that came in, and I think the this is, of course, you can say if you agree with this or not, but the Muslim community is so supportive. Like, we love each other. We really support each other. It's true, like, brotherhood, sisterhood, which I love. But sometimes I do feel like it comes with some level of judgment where people judge the way other people practice their religions and practice their faiths. Would you say that that's what you've seen as well?
Yeah, our community is interesting because on one hand, we have this like love, and even these videos where you see a sister again getting a hijab taken off, doesn't matter how she's wearing it in that moment, if someone recognized that's a Muslim, all of a sudden, zoom, we're coming to like back it. But if that same girl was online taking a picture in the same way she was wearing the hijab, someone would have something to say. And it's almost like that thing of, hey, that's my brother, I can cuss him but you can't, or or I can slap him but you can't. So we do have this kind of idea, I think, with the community, where when it comes to outsiders or others trying to attack us or whatever, destroy our reputation, we're suddenly like defense mode, protect each other. But then internally,
but it's okay if you do it. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where we need to sort ourselves out, for sure.
Yeah, I think, like, so for me growing up, I'm a Muslim, born and raised in this community. My family also, we don't wear the hijab. So that was just the environment that I grew up in. But of course, this is something that I talk about with my family a lot, whether this is something that I want to do in the future or not. But regardless, it's a journey, right? Like, everyone is practicing their faiths in their own pace, I guess, in their own form and way. But like, of course, there are certain guidelines that we all follow. We have similar values and traditions, but I still think that religion and faith is a private matter. It's between you and God. So for people to intervene, it can sometimes take you away from religion and take you actually away from God when people intervene too much, because it creates a negative impression. So I remember when, like, for me, when I was younger growing up, like, I feel a little ashamed to say this, but when I would see this, I guess the strictness or the intervention when it comes to religion in whenever I would visit Pakistan, I would have this negative impression of Islam, and I would be like, oh, like I don't like this, I don't like the way they're the way they're enforcing things on us, things like that. But as I grew up, I realized like that's obviously not Islam, that's just culture. Like some people just culturally do that because they're like, oh, in our culture you have to wear this type of clothing, so you can't wear anything else. It's not, you know what I mean? So that was a journey for me to learn as well. And yeah, like I think it's still something that I see quite often. It's
How do you find, like, within the Muslim community, but specifically the Pakistani or South Asian Muslim community, how do you find them responding to, I guess, what you do? And
I think, like, I can say that the Pakistani community is quite judgmental. Like that's definitely there. There is definitely judgment in the way you dress, the way you walk, the way you talk. Like there's always gossip around these things, and I see that so heavy in Pakistan. But when it comes to like following your religion, following Islam, it's a lot more that level of judgment, because I mean, it's, Pakistan was formed on the basis of religion. It was formed on the basis of Islam. So the whole culture is also around Islam, around religion. And so sometimes we confuse between culture and religion. And because of that, there's a lot of comments that are made. If, you wear this kind of clothing, about the hijab, I think it depends on the community. I cannot say it's all of Pakistan, because I know in Lahore, which is the city that I come from, a lot of people don't wear the hijab there, but they practice Islam. So if I don't wear, because they don't wear the hijab and I don't wear the hijab, it's okay. Yeah. But for example, I mean, I wear modest clothing, I would say, but I don't wear like sleeveless. But for example, if I did wear a sleeveless clothing, but they don't, so they would judge it quite a lot, It's
on their own standards.
Everyone created their own standard. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Yeah.
There was even something actually, I was reading, like when the British first came to India, and they were like, oh my goodness, these women are so immodest, because, with saris they'd show their stomach. So the kind of standard of modesty in the UK at that time was like, you can't show your stomach, that's too revealing. But then at that time the women's chests were exposed. So for them, like, that was acceptable to have a woman's cleavage out, but not her stomach.
But not her stomach.
Yeah.
Wow. So everyone creates their own standard. Yeah, exactly. That's so interesting.
Which is why, the beauty of Islam in general is because Allah creates standards for us in everything. Yeah. Like, this is the kind of structure. These are the guidelines, so that there shouldn't be any, confusion. And but obviously we're human.
At the end of the day, we're human. We make mistakes. We're
we're still gonna, like, based on our environment, our culture, there's still gonna be these things that, of course, have some influence. But at least if we can, as Muslims, just agree, like,
come together,
we can all agree on these standards, these guidelines, and again, just have a bit of grace on each other. And
and I think just like respecting others' space in a way as well. Yeah, I think that's just important, because I think everyone is going through their own journey. Because I remember so I had another guest on the show. She was a Muslim revert, so she converted to Islam, and she was American. And what's interesting was, this is not everyone's experience, but she was saying that she got a lot more hate from the Muslim community. And that's just so sad for me to see, because she was like, there was a lot more judgment because she would pray in English instead of Arabic, because she didn't learn Arabic yet. So she was still learning, or that she would not wear the hijab yet. But she did start wearing modest clothing. Like, she was transitioning slowly. And I think that just sometimes makes me sad that, like, I think there's just needs to be some level of more encouragement and some more respect given to people's spaces. Yeah,
rather than like attacking someone whilst they're trying to, climb up, and
they're getting there,
it is such a problem. And again, even that kind of goes back to what we were saying, when people become like defensive or aggressive to protect their own, and Muslims probably are doing it's the same, almost. True. energy that they get into when they feel like, oh, my religion, even though you're in the same religion as me, but for whatever reason they feel they have more authority in it because of whatever reason, and so then it becomes like defense, like I'm doing this to preserve la 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 la, and it's like, really, are you preserve Islam or your ego? What are you trying to preserve?
True.
That's
true. That's literal
that is the question.
I think that we're evolving, like we'll soon get there, but I think inshallah, and moving away from the topic of hijab and how that's seen in our communities, one thing that I wanted to talk to you about, it's kind of a shift, but I wanted to talk to you about your different cultures. I knew you grew up in the UK, but would you visit Pakistan or Morocco often?
Do you know what's so sad? I haven't visited Pakistan. And every time I come to Dubai, obviously every cab driver I have is Pakistan. And then like I feel like this urge to be like, I'm half Pakistani, just because it's like the closest I've ever been to.
That's how you
Pakistan
can connect
when I come here. This is like the closest. Even geographically, it's so close.
It's close, yeah.
So I really need to go, but Morocco, we visit every year, and it's just more accessible and
makes sense.
All my family, like immediate family, live in the UK from my mum's side, the Pakistani side.
Oh, okay.
Which is why
that's why you wouldn't really need to.
And if Pakistan was, for example, a very touristic country, and I happen to be from there, I would like, there'd probably be more incentive, even though I don't have family there. I would just go because it's like, oh yeah, if I was like, if Pakistan was like the Maldives, of course, but because my family's in the UK, and sadly it's not the most touristic when it should be, because it's so beautiful. I guess it's not happened, but I do. It's in my bucket list. It's on it. I have to go, inshallah. So
yes, please let me know when you go. Maybe I'll be there. I don't know. We visit Pakistan often, so maybe.
Oh, do you? Oh, nice.
Like every year, once a year, once every 2 years, we do go. But we only, to be honest, we only go when there's a wedding. Like I have cousins there, so there's always a wedding. We go for like a week or 2 weeks, and we come back. So I haven't explored Pakistan. Like
really?
Completely honest, I've just been to Lahore.
Okay.
I've literally seen almost nothing.
I would want to obviously visit my extended family and stuff, but my mum's side, they're Balochi. They're from Quetta.
Okay.
So that's probably another reason we haven't. It's a little bit rough. But I have family in Lahore as well, like a lot of family in Lahore. So we'll probably go there first. But
you'll take it down.
Yeah, exactly. I'll start with, but I genuinely would like to do a whole tour on Pakistan. I see it's on
beautiful.
YouTube.
It's literally, I feel so sad that I haven't been to the northern areas, but when I see it's like, it looks even better than Switzerland.
Yes,
you know what I mean. So
exactly.
It is beautiful. I know it's a little tricky. The roads are quite dangerous. Like I think the most dangerous road in the world is in one of the northern areas of Pakistan. So
wow.
I'm not discouraging you to go. I'm just I don't know if you want to go.
Do you know what? I climbed Mount Uhud when I went to Umrah a couple years ago. No, there was a sign that said, do not climb the mountain. Really? It's holy. But I saw the sign once we came down.
Oh, wait. Did you see other people?
Upset. So it was a little group of us, our little Umrah crew.
It's not you alone.
Yeah, it was the Americans that encouraged us to go up. And me and my friend were like, no, this is absolutely ridiculous. How can we? I was wearing a jilbab with Air Forces. I'm like, how are we going to climb this? But after, alhamdulillah, I am grateful they forced us to do it, because the view was incredible. And
wow.
I can see why people climb mountains, because there is this sense of accomplishment. When you're at the top, you're like, I can't believe I
did that.
And I could genuinely felt when people say like Mount Uhud is, it's a piece of Jannah on earth. It's alive. It really feels alive. There were so many moments where I literally felt like the mountains were like, oh, for God's sake, this girl like helping me from like dropping, because there were moments where literally the rock, it's not like sturdy, it's the rocks are crumbling, and when you're climbing literally like that,
scary.
Yeah. Like I was like, I can't die in Umrah. I'm like,
but then you go Jannah. Right?
I know. But the thing is, I hadn't even done my Umrah yet, because we started in Medina. So I was like, I can't. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, I was so angry at climbing up, but you did it.
You're here, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, Allah definitely, I don't know, some angels intervened, because there was no way I can't fathom how I did it. SubhanAllah.
And it was also very steep. Was it very?
So there were moments where you can walk, and then there were moments where literally like you kind of have to climb. Yeah.
How long did it take?
We climbed for like 4 hours. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I had no water, nothing, unprepared. And just a jilbab. I had to like tuck it in. Thank God it was a 2-piece one. I was like, yeah, that was crazy.
Wow, that's
I don't know how we got into that. So there was something you said about, I don't know how we got there.
What was I talking about?
I was talking about mountains in Pakistan, yeah.
Oh yeah, like northern mountains, yeah, okay. But yeah, that was
people. I'm sure people climb those mountains as well, like K2, which is the second largest in the world, I think. Yeah, after Everest.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I mean a lot of deaths also happen there. Yeah, like a lot. Like when you go, I don't know if it's the same for K2, but for Mount Everest, you need to sign like a contract saying that if you die, it's okay, like something like that. Like it's your responsibility.
John, let's go climb.
I didn't know the word. I was like, that's the easiest way for me to explain it. Bus. Bus, okay, ho gaya, bus chalo. I'm ready to die.
Exactly. No, I couldn't do it. Oh my God.
No, but yeah, I don't think I could ever do something like that. Yeah. It's like people who do that, wow.
Yeah,
like,
it's incredible. Do you know what? I do feel like, on the topic of Pakistan and the beauty, it's so frustrating that it's not touristic. Like, I wish, there would be some investment or something done to just make it more like the tourism. Like, where is the tourism board? There is a Pakistan tourism. There must be.
Yeah. It's like, but honestly, it's so true because there's so much beauty in it. Like, for example, a lot of things that you don't find in other countries, like, I don't know, the type of fruits, like sweet fruits or the all 4 seasons, like you have all of that in Pakistan. Like you literally have all of that, but it's just a matter of making it safer, making it more accessible to tourists. Yeah, I just wish
it would be something done. I know, because there is so much opportunity, and for even just the diaspora, even if it's like, okay, maybe we'll open up to trying to get others to come later. Let's just start with actually the diaspora.
Yeah,
because I'm an example. I would love to go with my family and I'm going on holiday to Pakistan, not just to visit family or a wedding or a funeral or whatever, but actually for like
just to visit.
Exactly.
Yeah, actually that's a great point, because I live literally like 3 hours away and I haven't gone to visit. I've just gone for
as a holiday.
Yeah, exactly. So that's but you said you've been to Morocco.
Yeah.
So what do you love about Morocco or Moroccan culture? What values in these different countries kind of embody you that you've taken?
So I think one thing that I do appreciate about Morocco, and how I guess over the years they're so open. Like, this is before the UAE, before this part of the world, like the Muslim world was like, many countries were quite just closed off, but whereas Morocco has been open for so long. If you look at all these films that were even set in Saudi or based in other Muslim lands, they would use Morocco as the set because it was open for filming, and so it's been really good, and that's obviously why we've got such a good tourism. It's always like between Morocco, Egypt, South Africa, one of them is always the first most touristic country in Africa, so it interchanges. And like, that's amazing, because Morocco is not necessarily that we have the pyramids or whatever. It's just people come because mashallah is a beautiful country and it's open. So I think for the people, they've done a really great job in making it like focusing on the tourism. And obviously the culture is really cool. We've preserved where the only, I guess, Western Muslim land that wasn't colonized, or Arab Muslim. Well, Morocco's, it's not Arab, it's North African, but it's in terms of where the Arabs came. We're the only ones where the Ottomans didn't colonize. So because of that, I think preserved a lot of our indigenous culture.
Beautiful.
Which blended with Islam. And
then do you have, I guess, Spanish? I don't know. I think I was reading
Spanish influence.
Yeah.
So the Moors, which was Morocco, parts of basically West Africa, let's just say, because so many countries that didn't exist, because it was all just like tribes, and it wasn't necessary before the Berlin scramble for Africa.
Yeah.
So with the Moors and they're moving into Spain. and taking taking Spain for many, many, many years, it obviously had an influence on our culture.
I love the way you put it, like with a smile as well.
I know, it's like I'm trying to, like when you really talk about history and politics, it's quite dark. So I'm like, I wasn't prepared for this. So, so that just because of the history, we've intertwined.
That's
quite a
beautiful.
lot. Yeah.
What is like your most favorite part about the culture that you still practice today in your daily life, or like some kind of traditions that you still embody?
In my culture, well, I guess my fashion sense is really inspired by my cultures, both Pakistani and Moroccan as well, and even like parts of like West Africa as well. So I'd say fashion. Maybe what else? I don't know. You don't really notice these things because it's just part of you. Actually.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like for example, I don't know if that's what you grew up with, but for example, hospitality of Pakistan, like the way they welcome you to your house, like pay for your food and fight for the bill, like things like that. Definitely. I think that is something that impacted me a lot growing up. Perhaps similar for you.
Yeah, because both Moroccan and Pakistani cultures are extremely hospitable. Yeah, so
in hospitality.
Alhamdulillah, very generous people. So that subconsciously you realize as well that that's just part of you. Yeah, so that and maybe the humor. Moroccans are funny. They're funny people. I feel like every Moroccan can be an actor. It's like genetically they're just made for entertainment. So like I would say definitely the humorous and lighthearted kind of energy is there.
Yeah,
so,
I want to go to Morocco so bad. Like I want to go. Yeah. We're planning a girls trip this summer, and one of the places we're thinking about is Morocco. Like I really want to go. I don't know if it's gonna be this summer, but like Morocco is definitely one for the books. And as you said, like it's open and people just the way they've I guess promoted the culture and the country so beautifully just attracts a lot of people. So it's true because I do really want to go.
Yeah, and they've preserved history, and there's a place called Volubilis, which is like an ancient Roman ruin in just outside of Fez. So, which a lot of people don't even Moroccans don't know about. So, yeah, like even that to go and see like a bit of Rome in North Africa because they came as well. That's what makes Morocco. We just got so many people popping in and popping out. That's why we look like this. It's so racially ambiguous because it's just been mixed over the years.
That's why we look like this.
Yeah, because being Moroccan in itself is essentially you're mixed. Like racially, culturally. And then for me, that added layer of also I'm Pakistani, which similarly is kind of a crossroad between like Persia, India was Persia, but Afghanistan, Iran, and then India. And it kind of goes back to your own identity, your own choice. And no one can really tell you, no, you're not allowed to claim this or that because it's in you. It's not someone else's right to tell you what you are.
Exactly.
When it's actually part of you. It's just what you lean more towards, and what you like. People ask me, do you feel more Pakistani or Moroccan even? And I was like, I feel both. Like, I can't pick.
Wow.
Yeah, because I can, there are moments where I'm like, when I'm around Pakistanis, I feel very Pakistani. Feel the Pakistan,
like the Urdu comes out.
Yeah. And like, I prefer desi food, I do. Like, I love Moroccan food. I had to choose. But then there's things about Moroccan culture where I'm like, I prefer this. So
makes sense.
Yeah, I can't. You can't like choose this. It's in me. What do you want me to do? Go back and tell my ancestors, don't mix. Stick with your own.
Stick with your own culture.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's very interesting way to put it. I think that's the beauty of identity. You can't have like one that you can't put yourself in a single box. Like there's so many of us that are mixed, like third culture kids. There's the growth of third culture kids have increased so much in the past few years, especially because of globalization and everything. So it's very hard to fit inside a single box. Like for me it's not exactly the same, but for me I know I'm Pakistani, my blood, everything is Pakistani, but I was born and raised in the UAE. So for me, my home is the UAE. No matter what I do, no matter what I say, UAE is my home. That's where my heart will always go to. But and because of that, it's hard for me to say that I'm only Pakistani, even though I am like by blood Pakistani. So you know what I mean? Like I think there will always be that kind of distinction, and it's hard to draw a line between the two.
Yeah.
And that's just the beauty.
And
of
even being Pakistani, it's not even 100 years old. So even us having Pakistani blood, I mean, what does that mean?
Because they probably came from
somewhere else.
else.
When I did my DNA test on my Pakistani side, I was majority Afghani and Omani, because my mom's Baluchi, which makes sense because she's on the cusp, that border. And I was like 11 or 14, I don't know, something less than 20% Indian. But generally, because Pakistan obviously was part of India, you'd assume that you're going to be majority
more Indian.
Yeah. So
very interesting.
That in itself is, so even with Pakistanis, you can't really like say like this is,
you're just
you
that.
Also have that mix of
interesting
of that region, you know?
When did you do your DNA?
Oh my god, this was so many years ago.
Oh really?
It was like the United Nations. It was ridiculous. I was like, this is a lot. I thought it was,
the United Nations. So what were you the most of? Do you remember?
The most was African. It was North African specifically, and then there was West African as well.
Wow. So, okay, quite a mix. I want to do my DNA test.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, you should.
Inspired me. Yeah. That's very interesting, because you're right. Like I can't say I'm like, I mean, I can say I'm Pakistani, but what I mean is that the blood comes from,
it's going to come from different places. Yeah, exactly.
Didn't think of that.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for this conversation. 1 hour has passed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm like looking at the camera. Really?
No, he was just sitting there waiting for me to end. So I was like, okay, sorry. But thank you. I had such a good, to be honest, 1 hour flew by so fast. I feel like we didn't cover everything that we wanted to, but this was such a good conversation. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you. No, I really did. That was really good.
Thank you very much. Yeah.